Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and in this video I'll be reviewing every single minifigure featured in the January 2024 Ninjago sets. These sets were gifted to me early by LEGO for review, but all opinions in this video are my own, and I already have 4 reviews up of every single set. I'll put a card in the top right corner to a playlist if you want to see any of them. But in this video I just want to take a look at the minifigures in this wave overall, so here is every single one, and I'll be giving you my thoughts on them as well as just analyzing the minifigure selection overall. I have to say though, looking at this is a really good minifigure distribution. Now this is a very small wave because it's sort of being split. We have another wave coming out in March. So most of the sets this wave are quite small. We only have one sort of big set. That being said, this wave still has every ninja come in at least one set. Their normal mech suits each come in one set exactly, but then Kai, Nia, and Lloyd also have different versions, and the new ninja Arin and Sora also come in 2 sets. What I really love here is the villain distribution, because it's not often we see this, but we actually get so many of the villains this wave. I really love to see that. I've got the main named villains at the top, and each of them only come in one set. We do know that Cinder's coming in the Lloyd mech set in March. This won't be the only way to get him, but I just love how many generic villains we get too. Across all the sets, there's 7 total Wolf Mask warriors as well as 2 Wolf Mask guards, and that's like a proper sized army. It gives you a lot for your minifigures to fight. From one of the March sets we've already seen revealed, the 4+ Fire Dragon, we do know that these guys are coming in at least one more set, so we probably will get more in the future, but for such a small wave, it's honestly really nice to get so many here. So yeah, I just want to show you the figure distribution overall. Seems very even and balanced. There's not too many of one character or too little of another, but now let's take a look at each of these minifigures up close. First, we have Cole in his new mech pilot suit, and the mech pilot suits are the main suits for this wave because, of course, most of the sets are mechs. And as you'll see, they're all very similar to each other. The only difference is, of course, the color scheme for each ninja, the symbol in the corner right here, and the way their belt lays on their legs. That being said, just because they're all similar doesn't mean there's not stuff to say about each of them. And starting with Cole, this is definitely one of my favorite ones. It just looks so good. Gold and black is inherently a very cool color scheme, and I love that these suits have gold hands, too. I feel like that really ties it all together. And the orange on this suit just pops so much. I love whenever Cole uses orange, and this is him using it in a way we've not really seen it before, because he has had like an orange headband on his suits before, but this time around the headband's actually black and like the back of the mask is the orange part, and it definitely helps the suit stand out in a collection. There's how this new hood piece looks from the top too. And speaking of, yes, this is an all new hood piece to this wave, and that's actually probably my favorite part of these suits. It's very similar to the old Possession hood back in 2015 that was later used on Skybound and Day of the Departed and also Hands of Time, but it's updated to be a little more modern. However, the biggest positive of this hood in my opinion is the fact that nothing hangs down the back. With like the Legacy hood, which was used on tons of suits, part of the mask was tied at the back and it hung down a little bit, and that did look cool, don't get me wrong, but it severely restricted motion on the head because you couldn't really turn the minifigure's head with the hood on. Now though, that's not as much of an issue. You still don't have like a full 360 spin because the front does hang down a little bit, but now the hood itself can actually be moved from side to side a little bit, which just leads to way more posability options for the actual character. So yeah, I really love this new part, so happy to see that all the ninja are using it, and I think the color scheme that Cole specifically uses is great. The mech suits themselves though are very armored. They're made to look very high tech, which makes sense. They're meant to be suits to wear while you're piloting a mech. And I really love how the orange just pops on the suit, and the gold trim on the black armor is very pretty. Cole has a dark gray belt here, which I think fits in well. And then if we turn around to the back, you can see he's got his name written in Ninjago right there. And all the ninja this wave have that, and that's a very cool touch. Taking the hood piece off, it is still the same face print from Dragon's Rising Season 1, where one side has like these powered up eyes, which I was actually told is supposed to be like dragon power eyes. Not sure how well that's represented. It seems more digital like Prime Empire, but hey, I mean, they look cool. And on the alternate side, he's got a very happy expression, which is a great one to get for Cole. Here's the figure with the hood on with the eyes shining through. Not much else to say on this one, but probably one of the best of this wave. I really like him. Next, we have mech pilot suit Zane, and I think this one is my favorite. One thing that right off the bat you may notice is different is that Zane actually includes an armor piece, and it's just the same armor piece from Season 11, though now in gold. And that's coming in a few suits. In fact, even like the crystallized suits use that. And I think that works with these designs and these new hood pieces. No, not every ninja gets that armor piece of this wave, only about half of them do. And that's because I think they want the mech suits to fit in the mechs, and the armor makes that a little more difficult. But if you have extras from your own collection, of course, you can add them to Cole and Jay and Kai. With the armor piece on though, there is a much bigger range of motion to turn the hood, which as I said, really great for posing. So much more personality you can get out of these figures now. That is absolutely my favorite part. But in terms of the actual design and colors of Zane specifically, yeah, this one is my favorite one. Zane is my favorite ninja, so I am a little bit biased, but come on, the light blue on the hood with the white on top of it looks so pretty, and the gold with the white pops so much. Gold and white can look really good or really bad depending on how you use it. Like for example, Hero Zane is not one of my favorites, but I think this one does it so well. The gold hands just go really nicely with a white suit, and I like how the blue parts and the gold parts are like broken up. They're not really fighting with each other, and it all just flows so nicely. Because white is obviously a very light color too, the blue parts really pop, even more than like the orange on Cole, and just leads to a spectacular minifigure all around. Here's how Zane looks with the armor piece removed like Cole has it, and I don't think that's nearly as good, but hey, I mean, it still works. But yeah, it definitely feels like he needs a little more gold. And then on the alternate side, same thing, very armored, you almost have like a little spine running down the back, but I appreciate that the blue's still here, and then of course Zane has his name written there in Ninjago. dragon. Face print, once again, those dragon power eyes, and on the opposite side he has a very stern expression. This is probably my favorite minifigure of this wave, definitely my favorite mech suit, though we'll see if I like any of the other figures better when we get to them later in this video. Next we come to Mech Pilot Suit J, and this one I like, though not as much as the other two. Gold and blue I think is very pretty, and it's a color scheme that J doesn't actually use all too often. In fact, he's probably the ninja who uses gold the least. But if you think back to like a Skybound suit, it looks really incredible on him. And again, I think these gold hands really help here. That's probably my favorite touch on these suits. I feel like the dark blue here is maybe a little bit boring. Like, it's fine, but we've gotten lots of J suits before that use dark blue. And again, comparing it to the previous two that we just did, the blue on top of the white really pops, the orange on top of the black really pops. Dark blue on top of normal blue, it looks good, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't stand out the way the other two do. Maybe they should have used bright yellow there like they used in his belt and then made his belt dark blue instead. I'm not sure. Funnily enough though, the bright yellow is actually the part that I dislike the most about this suit, but that's a fault of the printing and not the design. I like the bright yellow in theory, but it's not printed on thick enough so you can see the blue on the underside sort of bleeds through, and it's just sort of like this off yellow, somewhat greenish color. It's not terrible, like I've definitely seen worse cases of bad printing, but it could have been printed on better. And with the abundance of dark blue here, I feel like it really clashes, especially with the gold. I think if it was used more prominently and it was printed better, I would like it a little bit more, but as it stands, that belt does feel a little bit out of place. Still though, as I said, blue and gold is a very pretty color scheme, and there's a lot of parts of this figure that do look really good. And once again, yeah, there's his name on the back in Ninjago, and I might even like this back torso print better than the front. The gold's just incorporated a lot more here. Taking the hood off, there's his face print. One side is an angry expression, the other side has those dragon power eyes, and there he is with the mask back on. And now we come to the ninja who have two minifigures this wave, starting with Kai. We once again have the mech suit for Kai, and then we also have a Rising Dragon Kai. No, not Dragon's Rising Kai, Rising Dragon Kai. That is indeed the name of this suit, which is pretty funny, but yeah, that's how they're marketing it, so that's what I'm gonna call it. Anyway, starting with the mech suit Kai, again, just like the others, but what I love about this one is the bright orange. Bright orange is probably my favorite color that Kai uses, and he doesn't use it all too often because of course it's also Skylar's color and Arin's color, so he doesn't want to step on their toes too much, and I get that, you want each ninja to have a distinct color scheme. That being said, the bright orange on his belt looks so pretty, and you've got a small streak of it on the torso too, and that's really what makes this suit for me. Without that, I honestly don't think I'd like it that much, but with that, it looks incredible. Red and gold, once again, a pretty good color combination. I will say the gold on the torso could pop a little bit more, but I do think that's in large part because this figure does not have an armor piece. If you had the armor piece on, it does look quite a bit better, but he doesn't have it in the set, so I'm not including it here. I do think I showed that in one of my reviews, though, if you guys want to go check that out. Around the back, though, once again, his name's there in Ninjago, and the dark red is the secondary color is fine. On the hood, I actually don't think it looks that great. It feels a little bit out of place because the rest of the dark red's on the bottom part, but in that bottom section, I think the red and the dark red fit together really well, especially with the bright orange on top of everything. Face print, once again, just the Dragon's Rising one. We have the dragon eyes on one side and a very confident smirk on the other. I love this Kai expression. I'm happy to see it's still coming in sets. So far from my favorite mech suit, but hey, I like it. I think it's pretty well done. Now, Rising Dragon Kai, you can see, has the exact same torso, legs, and headpiece. The only differences are that he has an exclusive hood piece and added armor. And I have to say, this figure fixes all the issues that I have with this figure, pretty much. For one, the dark red is no longer in the hood, and I just think this flows a lot better, right? We got the bright red on the top of the figure, the dark red on the bottom of the figure, and they're not really clashing with each other. And now that there's gold on the mask and the armor piece, the hands tie in a lot more, and the figure just feels way more complete to me. Other than that, though, the rest of the figure is exactly the same. But I have to say, I do genuinely really like this one. These figures are honestly the main draw of those gimmick sets. Not a huge fan of the play features in those sets, but this guy is really good, I can't deny. I especially appreciate them switching up that hood piece. This look at him with the armor removed, obviously not as good, but yeah, just keep the armor on. And of course, the same face print as the other figure. So this figure is literally just this figure with one part changed and one part added, but it really does just change so much. This is another one of my favorites of the wave. Next, coming to Nia, she's very similar, where she has a mech suit and a Rising Dragon suit, and they're the exact same thing except for those two parts. Starting with the mech suit, though, this one is definitely my least favorite. I do like Nia's color scheme, and a lot of the time she's one of my favorite of the wave, but this suit pretty much uses every single color she's ever used, and it just feels like there's way too much going on. We've got the cyan color on her hood, but also gunmetal gray, because those are the two main colors she's used in the past, but then also the gold trim and the red belt, and the red belt sort of calls back to like Hands of Time, where she had a red belt, which I believe is meant to call back to her Samurai Axe days. And normally I'm really happy to see that red belt, but here, especially with the gold and everything too, it just feels like way too much. I also feel like there's maybe too many metallic parts used on this figure. The gunmetal gray and the gold feel like they're fighting a little bit. And again, similar to Kai, I don't like the reincorporation of the gunmetal gray up here. I would prefer like one color scheme on top of the figure, one color scheme on the bottom of the figure, which you'll see in a moment. Obviously, that's fixed. But yeah, it just feels like far too much going on. So even if there are some good elements, and yeah, there definitely is, it just doesn't feel as strong as some of the other figures in this wave. She does once again use her face print from Dragon's Rising Season 1. Very nice happy smile on one side, and then the dragon power eyes on the other. And she is one of the minifigures in this wave that have that armor piece. But yeah, I don't know, not necessarily a bad figure, but one that's got too much going on. I think it would have been best if it actually didn't have the gold here and leaned more into the gunmetal gray, but obviously the rest of the ninja have gold and they're all supposed to match, so her not having it also would have felt off. All of that being said, just like Kai, her Rising Dragon suit fixes a lot of the issues that I have. Now, it's still not perfect. I do feel like there's too much going on. I especially think the red belt was too much. But now, at the very least, the colors are broken up, right? The blue is on the top part, the gunmetal gray is on the bottom part. We don't have the hood reincorporating it here. And this golden armor piece is more prominent to make the gold feel more incorporated, so I do like this figure quite a bit more. But yeah, once again, everything's the same except for that hood piece and that armor piece, all the way down to the face print, so I'm not going to bother taking this figure apart because you already saw it on this one. But I am very happy to have this variant, because it does feel like a much better option compared to this one. And coming to the final of the original Ninja, we have Mech Suit Lloyd and Master Lloyd. Mech Suit Lloyd might be my next favorite after Zane and Cole. Once again, just like Kai and Nia, I don't love the reincorporation of dark green up here, and that's probably my biggest criticism with this figure. And actually, I think that's why Zane and Cole stick out to me as my favorites. Because on Nia and Kai and Lloyd, their secondary color is their entire leg piece, so it feels very prevalent on the bottom, but not very prevalent on the top, so having it in their hood just feels very out of place. With Zane and Cole though, their secondary color is very much secondary. Their legs are still the same color as their torso piece, so bringing that color up to the hood doesn't feel out of place, because it feels like that color's meant to be all over the suit. While on these two, it's a very clear lighter color on top, darker color on bottom. That being said, back to Lloyd, I do still overall like this figure. The bright green I think is a great decision. They used that in his first Dragon's Rising suit and it seems like they're gonna stick with it, and it just pops so much more than the original shade of green. And it makes his figures feel so much cooler. I like the lime green too on the belt and the little trim. It's similar to the bright orange on Kai. It definitely stands out on top of the dark green. And then green and gold is an inherently very cool color scheme. Obviously, those are colors that Lloyd has used plenty, but both the bright green with the gold and the dark green with the gold look really nice. And I do appreciate getting the armor piece here too. Around the back, just like all the other Ninja, he has his name in Ninjago. And face print, you can see a stern on one side, dragon power on the other, and of course it's the same one from the first wave. So probably my third favorite. I do wish the main suits used these gold hoods like the Rising Dragon suits do, because obviously not every Ninja gets a Rising Dragon suit, Lloyd included, but this is still certainly not bad. And then Master Lloyd is a very cool out-of-nowhere figure. I'm surprised this is a real thing that exists, but it is so cool. It's Lloyd wearing white robes similar to like what Sensei Wu would wear, though obviously with like more green to show that yes, he's still the green ninja. And man, this is so cool to get, and it comes in the cheapest set of this wave. He's got this dragon symbol in the back, which he also had in his main Dragon's Rising suit. Cool to see that continue here. And he's got his headband hairpiece from the island, which I'm not the biggest fan of that part. I think it looks great on the island suits. Haven't really loved it on any other figure since. But it's actually recolored here. They changed the headband to bright green, just like his normal suits, instead of the regular green that it used before. So that actually now makes that headband piece exclusive to this set, and that is so nice to see. I like how the trim on the robes too is like dragon scales, and the bright green belt I think works. Obviously we just talked about bright green is now Lloyd's color, so I get why it's there. I do think bright green on top of white feels very bright. Maybe they could have toned it down a little bit, but I do get what they're going for here, and it doesn't look bad. He does just have his original movie face print here, which is a little bit disappointing. I think any other face would have worked better. Like, I really hate this expression. But hey, I mean, if you have other Lloyds in your collection, you can swap that out. But even like the Dragon's Rising face would have been better. But very, very cool new variant. Happy this guy exists. And it's awesome to get him in a set. And now we move on to the new Ninja from Dragon's Rising, and we're starting with Arin right here. We have Arin's Mech Pilot suit and Arin's Rising Dragon suit, and these two, at least to me, are the most disappointing figures of this entire wave. Because these parts don't really feel like they go together, and that's because they don't. Arin just reuses his torso and leg print from the first wave, which, like, in theory, I'm not against. Parts get reused sometimes, and if you use them in a new way, I'm okay with that. That being said, Arin and Sora, who we'll see in a moment, are the main characters of the new show. I'd honestly prefer for them to get new suits rather than someone like Jay, who hasn't even come back to the show yet. But okay, they're reusing parts. If they look good, I'm okay with it. But that's the thing, this doesn't really look good. You see, Arin in the first season of Dragon's Rising had a really cool gimmick to his suit, where the torso for his ninja suit was actually just his casual clothes. It was a hoodie, and you could see that by the pockets in it. And when his armor piece was off, you could tell it was a hoodie, but when it was on, it covered up the undershirt, so then it just sort of looked like a ninja suit with pockets. And I thought that was really cool, very unique for Arin. I did not mind that at all. The thing is, we're not using the Dragon's Rising armor piece anymore here, so now you can see the undershirt, so this doesn't really feel like a ninja suit to me. This just feels like a hoodie with a ninja mask on top. And it just clashes, in my opinion. This is not how this minifigure should look. The other thing is, obviously, this ninja suit was never meant to use gold. So even though he does have a new hood piece with gold on it, that gold is nowhere else in this suit, so it feels super out of place. It looks a little bit better with the armor on it with the Rising Dragon suit, but without it, this just feels like random parts slapped together. It does not feel like one cohesive minifigure. It's a shame, too, because I love Arin. I want to get new ninja suits for Arin, so it's a shame that this is our first one since the first wave. That being said, if you take the hood off, it is still the same Arin from the first wave, so if you have like an extra hairpiece or something, this could be your unmasked Arin. And I do appreciate them giving him a new hood piece. And with a proper torso and legs, I do think this could be really good. It's the same as the other Rising Dragon ones, just obviously with Arin's color instead. But yeah, on this suit, it does not look good at all. I don't know what they were thinking here. And yeah, you can see these two figures are exactly identical. The only difference is that armor piece, so I don't have much else to say. It's a huge disappointment, and I hope in future waves Arin actually does get a new minifigure. And then coming to Sora, here's the two Sora minifigures from this wave, and they didn't even try to give her something new here. That being said, I actually prefer these minifigures to to the Arin minifigures, because even though this is exactly the same as the first wave, at the very least Sora's first wave figure is a really good minifigure. I love that figure. Like, if they had just re-released the first wave figure here, I would have been disappointed he didn't get a new suit, but I would have been like, oh, it's nice to at least get Arin for cheap. But no, this genuinely looks kind of bad. This version of Sora at the very least is a good figure. But yeah, she's got a fantastic design with a one printed arm. The cat ears on her suit are a very fun touch, and of course she is a street racer, a mech racer. So even though this wasn't originally a mech suit, it working as a mech suit doesn't feel like the worst in the world. With her armor removed, you can see she's got that cat logo on her back. And around the front, my favorite detail is probably the fact that she has a belt that's a seat belt, and the little cat keychain's super cute. There's a full look at her face print with like the powered up eyes and the golden flecks, and the alternate side with no powered up eyes, but she's very angry. It's the exact same figure from the first wave, so I don't have too much else to add. Very good minifigure, wish it was new instead, but hey, I mean, I'll take it. And then the other version of Sora is slightly different. None of the pieces are new here, but this is the first wide released way to get her hairpiece. It did come in the Ninjago City Market set, but that thing was $350, and it was available at Build-A-Minifigure at LEGO stores, but not everybody could do that. So this is the first wide release set to have that hairpiece, which is a nice thing to see. Also got a half mask here, which Sora's never used before, though dark blue is not a new color or anything. So cool variant to get, but yeah, the torso and legs are still exactly the same. For some collectors, this will be great. For most collectors, you probably already have this figure, so it's not the biggest deal. And now let's move on to the villain minifigures, and here are the two generic ones for this wave. We have a Wolf Mask Warrior and a Wolf Mask Guard. Now the Wolf Mask Warrior comes in lots and lots and lots of sets, and technically there's a few different variations, but it's pretty much just adding or removing parts. Like technically this is a Wolf Mask Claw Warrior because he has like the Wolverine claw pieces, but the figure itself is exactly the same as this Wolf Mask Warrior, who just has a sword instead of the claws. There's also this guy who only comes in one set, the set with the mech, and to fit him in the mech he doesn't have shoulder pads. And finally Sora's mech comes with this one who has like this huge back attachment, but that's more of a side build than an actual part of the minifigure, so I won't go in depth about it here, but feel free to check out my Sora mech review if you want to see it up closer. But yeah, here are the two truly different variants. One has the mask, one has the hood, and they are just the generic villains for this wave. I have to say though, for generic villains, these are awesome designs. I absolutely adore this color scheme with the dark blue and the purple, and then the touch of cyan underneath everything, like on the mask and on these little knives. Very ominous, but also super cool. Like immediately recognizable as these are villains. Such a fantastic design. They do have Ninjago on the torso, which just says the word wolf, which makes sense, they're all wolf themed. And around the back of the torso, they've got this logo, which I assume is the logo like for their clan. And you can see it's almost like a wolf or a Boris, right? It's a wolf biting its own tail, but it's also meant to be somewhat moon-shaped because these guys are all moon-themed, and I assume that's going to tie into the show somehow. But now, taking a look at the Wolf Mask Warrior, this new mask piece is incredible. It's dual molded, you can see in the cyan color and dark blue, and it's done very similarly to like the modern Captain Marvel or Batman masks, where you can see it's got like those blue eyes that are inset into the mask. They look like it's a head underneath, but no, it's not a head underneath. That's actually a part of the mask, and that's thanks to the dual molding. If we take that off, it does have a full minifigure head underneath, which is amazing to see, but with the mask on, it looks incredible. That is such a cool touch, and it really makes the eyes and the teeth pop. I will say from the back, the masks do look a little bit silly because there is just a hood there. That being said, I think that's kind of the point. They are just generic cultists, right? They're meant to be people in hoods wearing masks, and it helps these two match a little bit better too, like they are the same person, just one has the mask on, one has it off. Level of detail here is spectacular too. You can see the printing goes all the way down to the toes. And I really like the purple hands on these guys too. Helps tie the entire color scheme together. The Wolf Mask Guard uses the Legacy Skulking armor piece in dark blue, which is not a new color, however, it was a pretty rare color before this wave, so it's nice to see that coming in more sets. And of course, if we take that mask piece off there, you can see the face print underneath. It's interesting, these people look to be human because they have like the yellow Lego skin, but there's still like this mask on their face with like these silver eyebrows and teeth. And this set's actually the powered up version of them. This is the normal version. You can see the teeth and everything are silver, and those are just normal minifigure eyes. On this side though, this is them powered up, so those eyes become blue, the teeth become blue, and it looks even more sinister. And of course, these two figures are exactly identical, so you can see the face print on this one's pretty much the same. The only difference is that hood piece that goes on top. Yeah, there you can see that. Hood piece though is the more modern one, which is very cool to see. I think it fits these guys great. I obviously prefer this to the two figures, but this guy is actually the more common version, so I'm happy to have ways to get both of them in sets. Now moving on from the two generic villains, here are two named villains from this wave. We have the Generals Jordana and Cinder. Jordana is of course a character from Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 1, but we didn't get a minifigure of her in the first wave, but now she finally has one in the second wave, and that's so cool to see because she's a character I was never expecting to get in sets. She was actually designed for the show first, but the designers wanted to put her in sets too, so it's great to get her here. And the design's very similar to the show. Obviously Season 2 has not come out yet, and this is based on Season 2, but comparing this to her Season 1 appearance, I mean, her expression's pretty good, and her hairpiece is a little bit different because her original hairpiece I don't believe is produced anymore, but this new one in dark red looks fantastic, and she's got like the little ponytail out the back. Now you can see the torso lengths for these two is exactly identical because they're both generals, and the Ninjago on their torso is spells out Wolf Moon, which again, we'll have to wait to see the show when that comes out, but maybe that's the name of the villain group or something, the Wolf Moon Clan or something along those lines. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But it's very clear these two are like higher ranking. I love like the fluffy coat jacket they have at the top, but then the actual torso prints themselves feel very armored, much more so than the generic goons. And like they don't skip out in level of detail here once again. So many colors used, printing all the way down to the toes. And I like how the armor's a little scuffed up around the back too, it shows that they've been fighting. Here's Jordana with that coat piece and her hairpiece removed. I love that wolf symbol in the center of her torso, like that looks so nice. The lighter blue on top of all these darker colors really pops so much. And here's a look at her alternate face around the back too, where she's got like a slight scowl. By the way, you can see she still has that Imperium wiring on her face just like Sora has. This feels like a great translation from the show, and I'm excited to see her when she actually becomes a part of it. Now Cinder here is the new Master of Smoke, and I've had a lot of people asking what happened to the old Master of Smoke. I don't know, honestly. I don't know what happened to him. We will have to wait to see the show. But regardless of that, this is a really, really cool minifigure. Torso, legs, and everything we already looked at, but that faceprint and hairpiece are incredible. Now that's the LEGO Batman movie Joker hairpiece, or the Benthamar hairpiece, or more specifically the Twitchy Tim hairpiece, and it's great to see another character with it, and I think it fits the Master of Smoke, and almost looks like his hair's smoky. But the coolest part about this guy is actually the face print. Because if I take the armor piece off there, you can see the full thing, and he's got like this yellow face engulfed with the smoke, and that's actually printed on top of a transparent black head. Now, transparent minifigure parts are always very cool because they're not the most common thing in the world, but it's even rarer that we get a transparent LEGO head that's double-sided. I guess because the trans black is so dark, they thought it would be okay, and I very much appreciate that, because yeah, there's two expressions for this guy. One where the smoke's just surrounding his face, the other side where his mouth's completely covered by the smoke. Maybe this is him actually using his power, but you could still see his expression underneath that. Now, the one criticism I do have to give this figure is the yellow on his face is very discolored. Kind of similar to Jay's belt, which I was talking about earlier in this video. The trans black underneath is a very dark color and is bleeding through a little bit. The yellow should have been printed on thicker, and that's an issue LEGO has. They've had it since like 2019. I don't know why they haven't solved it yet, because they like used to do this okay. This didn't used to be a problem, but from 2017, 2018 onward, it has been a problem, and it's always very disappointing to see. If you look at the official picture of this set, that is supposed to be normal LEGO yellow, like it's supposed to be the same color as Jordana, so it's a shame that it isn't. That being said, it's not as bad on this character as it is on some other characters, because this guy is the Master of Smoke, right? So him looking a little discolored kind of fits the idea of his element, so it doesn't bother me as much as it does in some other figures. Still though, that was not the graphic designer's intent. If you look at the official images, he's supposed to be yellow, so it is still a problem I'd like to see get fixed one day. But for the time being, this is far from the worst offense. I really like these two. I appreciate that even though they share so many parts, each character is very distinct. They feel like their own character, and I'm really looking forward to seeing both of them in the show. And finally, we have the all-new version of Lord Raz, who's of course going to be the one leading the villains in this wave, and this figure is spectacular. You can see his suit very clearly ties in with all the other villains that we've seen, but also stands out from them too. He uses hardly any dark blue, which is what a lot of them use. Rather, he leans a lot more heavily into black, but that lighter blue color is so much more prominent here, and the purple's like super elegant. It's like robes draping over top of everything. I like the armor piece they used too. That's the old Stone Warrior armor piece from 2013, though in purple. Now that's not a new recolor that came in a LEGO City set last year, but it's cool to get into more themes, and it fits this guy super well. Taking the armor piece off, there's a full look at his torso print. And you can see the robes are a lot more prominent there. It almost looks sort of Jedi-esque. And he's got that symbol that the rest of the villains have too, though now on his belt. And this is a small thing, but I love how the claws on his feet are even metallic. Just looks super cool. Unfortunately, Raz no longer has arm printing, which he did have in the first wave, which would have been nice to see. But honestly, I don't know if this is meant to be sleeves of his robes, or if this is actually Raz's fur. Because of course his robe this time around is the same color as his fur. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how he appears in the show. And then beautiful design for the back of his torso. Again, it's so much of that blue, and combined with that silver printing looks so nice. And the Ninjago there just spells out his name, Raz. I think the purple hands in this figure really do a lot too. Yeah, I really like this one. And there you go, there was every single LEGO Ninjago Dragons Rising minifigure coming in the January 2024 sets. Let me know in the comments which ones are your favorite and which ones are your least favorites. Personally, my favorites are definitely the new mech suit for Zane, probably the Rising Dragon suits actually, obviously not counting Arin. And then I think of the villains, Raz is probably my favorite, but both Jordana and Cinder are really good too. And honestly, the normal Wolf Mask Warriors are up there for me. I think this is a great collection of minifigures overall. Obviously, Arin and Sora are the biggest letdowns. Sora's not bad, but she is reused, but Arin's a huge disappointment. And while personally there is some small changes I'd make to the mech suits if I was the one designing them, I think overall it's a pretty good suit line, very different, which always makes me happy to see, and I think this is a very solid collection all around. Make sure you go check out my 4 reviews of the sets that these guys come in. If you haven't seen those yet, I'll put a card in the top right corner to a playlist. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!